Where do you start with that? So much to discuss after Celtic lose for the first time in 37 years at Dens Park. Final score, Celtic 0, Dundee 2. An absolute shambles for so many reasons on and off the park here for this one. To join me on the Count of the Kickoff show is James. James, your initial response to whatever that was?
They say failure's an offering, but this failure has parents all over the place. I mean, I was always through the season 80-20, Brendan Rodgers. The board's fault, Rodgers' fault. Maybe 80-15-5 if you want to include the players in it. I think we're now sitting at a point where it's 40-40 on the board and Rodgers and 20% on the players. But I said in the summer, this is what's going to happen. I said it was done for Rodgers as the movable piece in the puzzle because the board aren't going anywhere. And the gloom that's been over the whole of Celtic Park, the whole of the squad since the summer window, when we knew we needed changes and it didn't happen. We're seeing it week in, week out. You don't mind losing, you mind losing like that,
There was various comments doing the rounds during the game on our Patreon, on Twitter and all over online, dare I say, but one of the points that stood out was the fact that actually this isn't a huge shock, is it? It's second bottom Dundee on paper is a shock, but the malaise is well and truly set in at Celtic, and it's not a hugely surprising result.
Malaise is the very word. I've referenced it a couple of times. If you look at Man United, you tell me there's not good players in that squad, guys worth hundreds of millions of pounds and stuff. Well, worth whatever, but they're the expensive squad. It's the malaise that clouds Man United that is their problem. And ownership's always a big part of that, and who runs the club is a big part of that. They've had quality managers, over the last 10 years more, and still can't get a tune out of these multi-millionaire players. And we're taking on a version of that ourselves. Rangers have had it for years, and we're taking on a version of that ourselves. So, the collective stuff has to go on urgent change required at the top of Celtic. But for me now, I don't see any point going on with Rodgers. I just think it's ran its race. He's gone through the motions because he said he wouldn't resign. They should have found that compromise agreement in the summer, as I suggested in the summer. And to just do nothing is mismanagement as well. The board just hoping that he resigns and they can bring in, just Sean Maloney or something in there, a crazy suggestion. And till the end of the season.
Ange, is it a stopgap, is he? He's not going to say, I'll just do it for 6 months. That guy won the Europa League in May.
It's time in his hands. Come in, it's a problem.
Let's ask the bigger question about Ange on the weekly show tomorrow. It's a full house, me, you, Miff and Paddy, because that's obviously a discussion to be had, given that he is currently available. But I suppose the very fact that we're asking the question means that you feel Rodgers is done, many feel Rodgers is done. I don't feel he's done just yet, and I've got taken a fair bit of flack for that, but today is inexcusable, and a massive part of that is on Brendan Rodgers, of course, because regardless who he's got so much more resource than Stephen Presley's Dundee, and a result like that is just unacceptable, regardless of the finer detail.
I don't blame Rodgers for me saying he's done. I don't blame Rodgers for being done. He's done by the hand of the board, but they should have been adult enough in the summer to say, well, if this is the way it's going to be, then obviously it's not going to work out. So let's find a compromise and I'll get out of here and leave you a clean slate to do what you want to do. I don't blame Rodgers. The Paul in circles is the problem, and Rodgers either isn't able or isn't willing to change that. And I think it's will rather than ability.
Yeah, I mean, there is the line or the narrative that Brendan Rodgers is just working his ticket. I don't know. What does working his ticket mean? He's not deliberately getting poor results. I don't think that's quite the case. But I tell you what, after the Kairat Almaty result, when I was trying to kind of summarise that at the time, I remember describing it as a collective failing. Board, absolutely. Manager's got to carry the can. Players not doing enough. And it feels like that's exactly where we find ourselves now, James. In terms of the game itself, let's switch focus back to the start of the day. Line up first in terms of the choices the manager has made. The eyes roll for so many when you see that Yang is starting. Yang is completely done at Celtic. And I accept that he's a player that I liked and I backed initially. But for some time now, I've accepted that his head is gone, his confidence is gone, and there's no longer a part for him to play at Celtic. And the fact that he had 1 foot out the door, I think he travelled to Birmingham City in the closing days of the window, only to have that move pulled for him. That is a guy that's woefully short of confidence, so there's a Question mark there. But before I get your take on that, you've also got Tony Ralston in behind him. What's Tony Ralston done recently? And I'm not, there's a lot of anger just now, and I'm not just going, let's just sink the boot in various players. But what's Tony Ralston done to justify playing instead of Colby Donovan? What's the manager thinking down that right-hand side? That's the end of the preview on this final whistle show from Celtic Exchange, but the full episode's available right now over on Patreon, where you can also enjoy a whole range of additional shows throughout the week, including our pre-match previews, special episodes, and the daily podcast, which we record every weekday morning. As a member, you'll also get access to our exclusive chat community and a host of other benefits, all for just £5 a month. And you can be enjoying it all in just a couple of minutes by joining us at patreon.com/Celtic Exchange, where you can join the growing community of Celtic fans who now enjoy more from Celtic Exchange each and every week. So that's patreon.com/Celtic Exchange, or simply click the link in the show notes for this episode.